Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. I am here at ESA's S-Tech in the Netherlands for a really exciting opportunity. I get to play Private Division's Kerbal Space Program 2. Most of you probably know that I'm obsessed with Kerbal Space Program 1. It's half the reason that I know anything about rockets and spaceflight is because of playing Kerbal.
I love this game. It's just really taught me so much about spaceflight and orbital mechanics and how to strand completely innocent beings on distant worlds with absolutely no chance of ever making it home. So today I'm super excited to share my first playthrough of KSP2 Early Access with you. I'll check out what's new, what's different, what I like, what I don't like, all while I build some rockets and planes and do a little exploration. After the dust is settled at the end of this video, I'll summarize my thoughts. So if you're impatient, you can skip forward there if you just want to get straight to my opinion of KSP Early Access. Now on that note, it's just that, early access. In other words, it is still in beta. It's not a finished game yet, not only in terms of some of the exciting new features like interplanetary gameplay or multiplayer, but it's even lacking a campaign mode upon release. But it's also obviously a beta in the fact that it's still quite buggy. It has some serious user interface flaws, and it's even lacking many things we've become accustomed to in KSP1 for years. Now, I'll be pointing out some of these things as we play, but I'm quite confident many of these are already being fixed as we speak, and the game will continue to get better and evolve quickly before you know it. Enough yapping, I've waited years to say this.
Let's hop in and play Kerbal Space Program 2.
So I started up a new campaign just so everything was from scratch, and after having named it something very clever and original, I hit Start Campaign. The PC I was playing on was pretty substantial. It was a 12-core Ryzen 9 7900X CPU with 32 gigs of RAM, and to my surprise, a nearly top-of-the-line 4080 graphics card. For reference here, this load screen is sped up 2x, and it took 33 seconds in real time to load the game from here. Once the game was fully loaded, we were greeted by the new Kerbal Space Center, but the first thing I wanted to actually check out was the tracking station, so we could see what planets were available in this early access. KSP2 will eventually have interstellar travel, and I was just curious if anything was new in the Kerbal system, and it appears that for early release, there won't really be any new planets or moons, although saying they're not new is maybe misleading because they've all been painstakingly built from scratch, and they look incredible. Okay, the game's planets now look amazing, but we've got to build a rocket.
All right, so obviously the first thing I'm gonna do is hop into the vehicle assembly building and see what's what. And right off the bat, holy crap, we have some new, much bigger command modules. This is awesome. Oh, cockpits. Look at that new shuttle cockpit. Oh, that is awesome. I gotta peek at all these.
Now I should point out that you're seeing me do something pretty awesome that you couldn't do in KSP1. You're now able to build multiple vehicles at once, which will make large space stations and sub-assemblies so much easier. This is a huge improvement and a very welcome feature. I should have played around with this more, but I was just too excited to see what else is new. The next thing I noticed that I absolutely love is the fact that the parts are all sorted by size, they're labeled by size, and they're color-coded. This is maybe one of the best upgrades of the whole game, is just having an easier to navigate parts catalog. But another thing I noticed was just how snappy and incredible the game looks and feels. I kept saying over and over just how good it looks because it's very obviously a major overhaul. The clicks and the way parts join together and the sparks and the whole building process just feels fresh and exciting. Next, I was really excited to check out some new payload bays that should open up tons of new possibilities for rockets, such as Starship-style vehicles with large reusable nose cones, or even building an SSTO. It'll be just a lot easier to reuse everything, including the fairing. While playing with the payload bay doors, I ran into a new user interface that I'm both excited about and I also loathe. A right click on a part opens up a new parts manager window. This is where you tweak things like the amount of fuel in a tank, some advanced tweakables, and other things that would have previously just been a little pop-up window off to the side of the part. This currently is a bit of a nightmare because every part loads up in the window. So it's hard to tell which part you're changing or affecting and how many of them. So say you have 8 engines, I couldn't see a good way to know if I was affecting one engine or all or vice versa. However, I was reassured by the devs that this is already changing and they already have a few plans to make it better. I would love if this parts manager was organized by stages. That would help a lot, especially knowing what exactly I'm changing. The next thing I was really excited to check out was the new engines. At first glance, it looked like mostly the same engines as we're used to, and they look great and again are organized very clearly. Now I know this is dumb, but I'm still a little bit sad that there's only one monoprop engine and that it's still only radially mounted, meaning you can't stick it in the middle of a rocket or a spacecraft like almost every other engine. Perhaps it's one of my dumbest feature requests, but it just makes monoprop engines seem silly when there's only one. But one thing that I was really excited to see was there's now 2 nuclear engines. And best of all, they appear to be better in pretty much every way compared to the original LVN or the NERV engine. The original NERV was 3 tons and produced 60 kilonewtons of thrust in a vacuum and hit 800 seconds of specific impulse. But the new engines are much better. The new NERV weighs the same amount but produces more thrust at 75 kilonewtons in a vacuum and has an improved 900 seconds of ISP. But that's nothing compared to the new LVSW or SWERV. That's 10 tons, but produces almost 10 times the thrust at 700 kilonewtons, and it hits a bonkers 1450 seconds of ISP, and best of all, it can gimbal. These will be fantastic engines for interplanetary ships. I think a lot of people are going to find more uses than ever for these nuclear engines. Speaking of nuclear engines, we now have entirely new tanks in the form of hydrogen tanks for those nuclear engines, which is what nuclear engines run on in real life. So now the propellant tanks in the game are actually methane and oxygen tanks, which is awesome. That's a very 21st century thing to do. I love it. These are used for the majority of rocket engines, and there's just methane for air-breathing engines, and then we still have some monoprop tanks, mostly used for RCS thrusters, and of course we still have xenon tanks with a few new ones as well, which is a welcome addition. There's still your standard range of tank sizes and a similar set of Mark II and Mark III aircraft and spaceplane tanks as well. Okay, at this point I was just getting ahead of myself, and I didn't even finish the parts tour. I'm so sorry, I was just honestly too excited to build a rocket. So of course I started building a Starship-esque hopper just to see what building and flying was like. As I build this, I want you to just listen to how satisfying the sounds are for just a second. They are absolutely lovely, and there's these subtle little pitch changes while you scroll around, and it really just feels fantastic and adds a very nice touch to the game.
Okay, so where are my landing legs? That's what I gotta figure out. Wings, ground. Way better landing legs, yes. I'm gonna do tri-symmetry because I think that looks awesome. Did I nail that? Yes, I did. I gotta open these babies up and see these things. Retracted, extend. Oh, that's sick. Okay, that looks really, really cool. Something like that. Yes, baby. Close those bad boys. Okay, let's throw on some maneuvering thrusters.
So after I placed a few RCS thrusters on the vehicle, it was time to get this baby out to the launch pad and experience my very first taste of flying in KSP2. And I want you to pay attention to the time between hitting launch and the rocket being on the launch pad ready to fly.
Oh my God. It loaded so quick. Like it loaded instantly to the launch pad.
So after 9 years of playing KSP1, it was finally time to hit the spacebar and launch in KSP2.
Oh God. Oh my God. Windows. I keep. No, do not do that. Sticky keys, let's see.
That's shift.
Disable this keyboard shortcut. Yes, disable it, please. Off.
Turn it off, yeah.
Okay. And
unfortunately, Windows got the best of me here. Not being a Windows user myself, I definitely wasn't prepared to be interrupted by hitting the shift key 5 times when trying to throttle the rocket. And unfortunately, this popped up a prompt and it ended up airing out my OBS capture. Now we were asked to not touch OBS or anything outside of KSP, So unfortunately, I didn't notice the recording got messed up. So I played for quite a bit longer before I noticed the OBS recording had gone astray and was super cropped in. Oh well, after a quick reset, I was back at it. But this time, I decided it's time to go explore properly. So I went back to the VAB and worked on building a moon rocket, or more specifically, a mun rocket. And during this build, I had a ton of fun playing around with one of my new favorite features. It's a simple little feature, but boy does it make the game look better. Paint jobs. The paint window can be pulled up by just clicking the paint palette near the bottom of the screen. Then you'll see there's options of changing both the base and the accent color of either the entire rocket or just a part. First you select the color, then you actually click on the rocket or the part to change the color to those selected in the window. It's really simple and it's easy and it looks amazing. And a pro tip, there's an opacity slider on the right side of the paint window, and this is how you can make rockets look shiny, like Starship or like old school Atlas SM-65As. One of the new things I noticed was a handy little trip planner tab in the game. This will be incredibly helpful when building rockets. It lets you know how much delta V you need to visit anywhere in the Kerbal system. Of course, delta V is the change in velocity measured in meters per second, so it's really a matter of how big and efficient your rocket is and how heavy of a payload you're pushing around. This is a fantastic tool for new and experienced users alike that will hopefully help prevent stranding Kerbals too often, which I'm sure we're all just a little bit guilty of. But one thing that the planning tool, and I guess the game in general, is currently missing is a thrust to weight ratio calculator. This is something that we've had for years in KSP1, and now having it missing feels very strange. Having a thrust to weight ratio calculator helps you know that not only can your rocket get off the ground in the first place, but also that your lander will have enough thrust to land on the moon or the planet that it's heading to as well. This is one of those features that I've been assured is coming, and it shouldn't be too hard for the team to incorporate. Okay, so after a bit more building, it was time to get an orbital rocket out to the launch pad to see if I can get it to the Mun and back.
Okay, SAS is already on, RCS. Cool, whoa. It just starts us off, I think, looking east-ish? So the VAB is now to the south of us. Okay, so when we fly, we're probably gonna fly straight west. Okay, let's do this. So let's fly in Kerbal Space Program 2. I can't believe I'm saying that. Here we go, 3, 2, 1, let's go, baby. Engines, whoa.
1 second.
Holy crap. The sound is amazing. Oh God. Oh no, no, no. We're already getting wobbles. It is still very much Kerbal. Okay, so I turned off SAS for now then. Now in theory, our center engine should be draining slower than my outer engines. Are these tanks? A little bit hard for me to figure out which tanks are which. Oh well, let's just shut up and fly.
Now I am going to fast forward a little bit here because notice just how slow the game was now with a little bit bigger rocket. It actually became painfully slow. Getting through the first stage burn took about double real time. So it took about 6 minutes in real time when the game clock said it took about 3 minutes. This is pretty bad and will be quite frustrating for large ships, and by all accounts this rocket is not really that large. This is my biggest concern with KSP2 is the performance. I'm playing on a pretty beefy machine, as you know, and it's struggling when I get to a rocket that probably has a little bit more than 100 parts. But there is some good news. Once I got to stage separation, the game woke back up and felt like a brand new game again. It suddenly was performing extremely well just by dropping off 8 boosters made up of about 9 parts each. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be some optimization that's going to happen here because I think some parts aren't performing properly and they were heavily taxing the system. Something in my boosters, like maybe the fuel crossfeed system that I was using had a little error or something because it felt like a completely different rocket once the boosters detached. So hopefully it's something that doesn't plague all large rockets and it gets fixed quickly. And in general, maybe the game isn't quite using resources fully yet. This is one of the gripes that I always had with KSP1, is that the game would lean heavily on single core CPU performance and leave all the other cores just idle. And it would also leave dozens of gigabytes of RAM doing nothing, and it left the GPU basically sleeping. KSP2 seems to lean a lot more on the GPU, but I still hope that it can utilize more of the computer's resources better. If it's got it, use it, please. And here's another thing that I was getting frustrated with, and I'm honestly not sure if it's because I'm not a Windows user or if it's just a new key binding or what, but I'm used to looking around and changing my view of the rocket by using the arrow keys. In KSP2, if I do that, it moves the camera and it won't reorient and re-click back to orbiting around the rocket. This makes it very frustrating when you accidentally look around and you can't ever get back to it. I eventually found out by going to map view by pressing M and then going back right away to the flying view by hitting M again, the view would recenter and re-click onto the rocket. So I just made a habit of double clicking M whenever my muscle memory made a fool of me. The devs later mentioned they might someday include a new legacy controller option, so those of us with thousands of hours don't get too frustrated with a new control layout as the one and only option. Okay, so I missed the moon because I was distracted by the camera issues, and that's when I ran into another issue. This time I couldn't get the RCS, or the reaction control thrusters, to fire. When using stability assist, I could set it to lock onto a certain orientation, and I could see that they would fire up and they would work, but I couldn't control them using the keyboard, so I couldn't get the ship to flip around using RCS thrusters manually with the keyboard at all. After a quick little briefing with one of the developers, I decided to just keep going and orient using SAS on its own to, target to retrograde or wherever I was pointing. I guess it's just another bug logged for now. But I should pause here again and just reiterate that half the bugs and the issues I experienced are silly to even mention here on camera because they're pretty low-hanging fruit and things that will certainly be fixed quickly. So I'm only mentioning them to tell you a story of my experience. I'm not trying to complain or anything, but just being honest about how the state of the game was when I was playing it. Another new feature that I love is the map view now shows where you're going to intercept with the gravitational influence of another body. It marks your in and out points. This is very cool and it actually makes a ton of sense. Let's go. Oh, there we go. There's an approach. Whoa, this looks amazing. Look at that. Apoapsis at the moon. Wow, I like this interface a lot. What are these guys? Is that showing where I'm going to intercept the... That is really, really cool. That's showing where I'm going to, my intersection basically with the gravitational field of the moon. I love that. So here's another new feature that I'm not used to yet, but I do think it will be a good thing. You now pause the game by slowing down time warp to 0. Simply go below 1x on the time warp, which is comma to slow down and period to speed up, and you just simply pause time. It's smart. But now, hitting escape does not pause the game. I kind of wish they both pause the game because I'm not sure what things you'd want to do in the menu without pausing it, but maybe that could be an option. I made it to the moon, but at this point, I don't slow down more. I'm going to crash right on into it. We've done that in Kerbal Space Program 1 way too many times. Oh, look how good that moon looks. The background, this is gorgeous. This is absolute, look how good the moon looks. Look how good the moon looks. Isn't that awesome? Another bug that you might see here that I'm sure will get sorted out is when you pause the game and unpause, you'll end up stacking up paused and unpaused little callouts on the screen, and it ends up taking up just an unhealthy amount of screen real estate. Another great part about the new time warp is you can actually time warp while accelerating. However, the throttle is locked while doing this. So it's really meant for longer burns, which will come in handy for nuclear stages and those eventual interstellar missions. This is a big improvement over the physics warp that we had when engines were running in KSP1. Let's see here, yeah, we're gonna smack right into this thing, so we gotta get ready, we gotta start slowing down here. I'm gonna throttle up right away. I forgot to quick save. Rookie mistake. Oh God.
way too late. Just trying to pitch up here, gain some altitude. Oh God, I'm definitely gonna smack into the moon for the first time. Rookie mistake, rookie mistake. Oh God, oh God. No, 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 no. And I didn't do any quick saves or anything.
No.
Oh, forgot to hit F5.
Okay, so my first moon landing was riddled with some issues. Some that were mine, some were the game's, and I forgot to do any kind of quick save, so I was determined to just give it another go. But this time I decided I needed to strengthen the rocket up since it wiggled so much during ascent on the last launch. This is when I discovered another feature that I've perhaps grown a bit too reliant on that was also missing, and that's AUTOSTRUTS. So I did what any good Kerbal player does, and I strutted the rocket up like crazy to help it avoid the Kraken. Another quick paint job update, and I took it back to the pad for launch attempt number 2.
Let's do it. It did say delta V 0 meters per second. Should we be concerned? The answer appears to be no, we should not. We are full speed ahead, ready for launch. In 3, 2, 1, let's go, baby. Go. And go. Yes. Let's see if it holds together better now. God, that looks amazing. Notice how tight the plumes are, so tight down at sea level. I love that. And then how they expand, just like in real life, it expands more and more the higher and higher you get.
Now here again, I had to admit, I just have been so excited to be playing the game that I really didn't even take in a moment to admire all the new things at our beloved Kerbal Space Center. Here's the moment when I finally soaked in all the exciting changes.
Oh, and there's 2 launch pads. Okay, I gotta soak this all in a little bit better. Landing pads. Okay. Why aren't I landing? Look at all the launch, there's 4 launch pads. And 4 landing pads, 2 runways, some taxiways. Wow. Helicopter landing pad there. The seaport, this is massive. This is a way bigger complex than before.
Okay, since we've already flown this bit already, let's just skip forward to the moon landing so you can check that out.
40 meters above the ground. Come on, buddy. Do have to get on the ground. We have 800 meters per second left to get home. That's cutting it a little too close. Oh my gosh, look how good this looks. Holy crap. Yes. Beautiful. Touching the engine nozzle on the moon just a little bit. Okay, how do we EVA? We gotta... Okay, no vessel control, no big deal. Let's jump. Oh God. Cool. Oh God.
After a little EVA action, I accidentally did my classic move the camera with the arrow keys, and it screwed up my view, but I also, in a panic, I guess, somehow muted the game audio, and I didn't realize it. Maybe that's a Windows thing, maybe that's a me thing, maybe that's a new KSP2 thing. I'm not sure, but whoops. So I made it down to the moon this time, and I was anxious to get back and test out re-entry. But I was cutting it close, and I wanted to make sure to do a maneuver node to plan my burn precisely to make sure I was doing it as efficiently as I could.
I think, let's add a maneuver node. I want to see what this is. Create a maneuver point. How much is it going to take to break free? 269, oh my God. It's going to be so close. Yeah, we're gonna mess up. We're gonna mess up. 280 meters per second. We have 269 left. No.
Once I got through my burn, I clicked on the maneuver node to delete it. I don't really need it in the map view anymore, so let's just get rid of it. A very little flag went off in my head, wondering why they decided to change the language of deleting a maneuver node to destroy, but I figured whatever, it sounds more epic, and I clicked.
What should we have left? Let's get rid of this maneuver node. Destroy. Oops. Don't right click and hit destroy. I thought I was destroying my maneuver node. I just destroyed my whole craft. You can just click right click and destroy, and it just deleted my whole thing. I don't think I like that. I thought I was deleting my maneuver node.
I just destroyed my mission and my Kerbal with 2 simple clicks. There was no prompt saying, "Are you sure you want to destroy your vessel, killing all those inside and ending your mission?" or something along those lines at all. This, although frustrating in the moment due to our limited gameplay time, wound up being pretty hilarious. I'm sure it's going to be fixed in the near future because even for Kerbal, that's pretty reckless. So I reverted to my last quick save, which fortunately and unfortunately, I guess, was before I touched down on the moon, which gave me another chance to use more propellant from earlier stages and make sure to have plenty of propellant to get back home. So I didn't risk it this time, and I did what any responsible Kerbal player does. I landed on the stage below the lander, you know, the stage that doesn't even have landing legs, and I landed directly on engine nozzles.
Here we go, here we go. Okay, and cut the throttle, landing on the engines. Sweet. Okay, now we have plenty of Delta V. I don't think we can get out of the vehicle without it tipping over because I don't have landing legs here. So we landed on the moon. Let's just take off. Let's just get back. I gotta get back to KERBIN.
Anyway, I made my way back to KERBIN and began re-entry, and here's another feature the devs told us they've disabled for our current build that we were playing on, and that was heating. This is no big deal. I'm sure they'll get this implemented soon enough, so re-entry was a breeze. There was no re-entry heat or graphics, which is a bit of a shame, but I can't wait to see those in the future.
How fast I'm touching down? 6 meters per second. No big deal. You got this, Tim. Might just be a little kick in the butt. Just slow it down. Whoa. There we go. Made it to the moon. Made it back. That's what I like to see. All right, how do I recover this now? Recover vessel, sweet.
Okay, enough with rockets. One of the most fun things to do in Kerbal is build jets and space planes, and this has had a pretty massive overhaul. KSP2 finally introduced procedural wings. This is where you can customize each wing in great detail. You can now adjust your wingspan, your wing angle, the root length, or where it attaches to the fuselage, as well as the root thickness, and you can even change the tip length, the tip thickness, and the angle as well. This is huge for people who love to build planes. There was one bug that I noticed, and maybe it's not really a bug, but more of something that I would have liked to see. I noticed that if you attach a wing or winglet to the end of another wing, and then you adjust the root wing's length or angle, the winglet does not move with the end of the wing. It's more or less mounted to the root of the part. This can lead to having to redo moving parts around if you decide to make a change to the core of the wing, and this could get quite frustrating with highly detailed or very complicated large planes. Well, that's enough of that. It's time to get to the runway and fly around Kerbal Space Center.
Okay, let's launch this baby. Looks like we're getting close to ending time, which is very, very sad. Not enough time here.
Take a minute here to notice just how incredible the game looks. It's smooth and it's responsive, and it has an incredible amount of detail. Flying in KSP2 is a joy. There's beautiful vapor trails from wingtip vortices, there's clouds, there's trees, there's some real depth to the world, and it's just plain fun to fly around. This is something I'll definitely be doing a lot of simply for the fun of it. However, landing in this build of KSP is a little bit of a different story. It's quite challenging. At least the plane that I built is very touchy, and it seems to bounce back and dive nose down after any input. Again, some of this could be my plane, but it just feels a little bit different. And don't even think about turning SAS or stability assist on with a plane. The PIDs, or the proportional integral derivative tuning, is just a bit off. Every plane I flew, or that Flo flew, or that anyone else I saw flew, seemed to want to Flappy Bird because of overreacting stability control. Again, this is something that KSP1 generally did well almost no matter what, so I expect KSP2 to get this figured out shortly too. I spent the rest of my limited gameplay time playing around with planes and space planes because it's just really fun to be able to customize them so much. The new paint is so fun, and I'm sure we're going to see the community make vehicles that look incredible because of the paint options. I love tweaking the wings and playing around with the geometry more than ever. It's going to truly make for an awesome space plane and jet builder and simulator. I think this is probably what's going to end up drawing a lot of my attention on release date. So to summarize my experience with my first time playing Kerbal Space Program 2 Early Access, I have a lot of feelings about Kerbal Space Program 2, and I really hope that you made it this far in this video, or perhaps you just clicked ahead to hear my summary. Well, here it is. We are just barely scratching the surface of what KSP2 will be. It's very obvious that this game is built upon an entirely new backbone that looks like it took an incredible amount of work. The fact that there's physics built in for interstellar travel and continuous accelerations is proof of that. But when all is said and done, how do I score it? At least how do I score this early access? The graphics overhaul is beyond what I expected and breathes so much fresh air into the game. I know there's a lot of pushback with the system requirements for this game right now, but in a year or 2 years, I think we'll all be happy that they pushed for a more beautiful and rich game rather than a watered down version that dates itself quickly. Hardware will get cheaper, systems will get updated, and the team will continue to optimize for performance, and I really think it just won't be much of an issue for the average player soon. So I'm going to give the graphics an A. I think they're fantastic and help you feel much more enveloped in this beautiful world. The sound, on the other hand, is purely a win-win-win all around. It's absolutely delightful. Between the music, the rocket audio, and the little UI blips and bloops, it's truly a pleasurable experience. Mad props to the sound design team for nailing the massive sound of rocket launches, as well as all the little things. A+. I'm overall quite pleased with most of the UI updates. The game is well organized, especially the parts catalog. I don't love the parts manager window yet in the build UI, but I do think it has the potential to eventually be a better system. And I'm also thinking a lot of this just comes down to it's different and new, therefore it's scary, so I don't like it. But for now, I think the build UI gets a B, but it's not going to take much for that to get up to an A. The flight UI, on the other hand, is fantastic. It took almost no time to get used to it all. It's a great layout, important information is all right there on the screen, not even hidden behind toggles or anything. This gets an A+. The map UI has some nice upgrades. It looks a lot cleaner, but has a few flaws. For instance, you can't pin the perigee of the body that you're heading to. And that whole destroy your entire craft with just 2 clicks thing, I'd say it's a B for now. Overall playability for this early access version. There are no showstoppers, no reason you can't enjoy the game as it is. In fact, I really genuinely cannot wait to play more. There are some frustrations, some missing functions, and some overall bugs that will need to be ironed out, hopefully sooner rather than later. But overall, it's already incredibly fun and will only get better. So I'd say currently playability is a C. It's the classic curse of modern day game development. Players want a game to hurry up and come out, they beg and beg to just play it, the devs say it's not ready, eventually they get pressured into releasing something that's not finished, and then the players get upset that it's not done yet. But honestly, when early access comes out, the first thing I'm going to do that I wish I had done was just simply go visit all the planets. Seeing some other gameplay footage and watching what some of the other people were doing, I just can't wait to explore. There's so much to see and do and experience, much more than ever before. So the ultimate question, should you pony up $50 to play the early access of the game? A game that is, by all accounts, not finished. Absolutely. It's a no-brainer. Who cares if it's not perfect? We all know it's not. Who cares if it's not done? If you like KSP1 and believe that this will only improve, then why wait? Then we can all cherish each and every update as they come out. Again, much like KSP1. Only this time there's so much more depth in these releases. I can't wait. And frankly, the price will only go up. So you're not losing anything by getting it now, even if you let it sit unopened on your desktop until they release some updates. So yes, I will be buying it immediately. I'm gonna be refreshing the Steam store until it's ready. I'm already that hooked, and there's so much more that I really can't wait to do. And frankly, I can't wait to see how it plays on my M1 MacBook. Yep, that's right. I play Kerbal most of the time on a 16-inch M1 Max MacBook because I'm traveling all the time, and honestly, it plays Kerbal Space Program 1 phenomenally well. It plays it smoother than anything else I've ever played on, and it's just easy. So I'm excited to see if Macs can play Kerbal Space Program 2 half as well as they can KSP1. But my biggest takeaway, and perhaps the reason I'm actually most excited about KSP2, is something extremely important that we haven't even talked about yet. I think this version of KSP is better suited to get new people interested and hooked better than ever before. There's tons of new tutorials and gameplay modes that will draw in new users, help them get over that intimidating barrier of entry, and help make rocket science and orbital mechanics fun for an entirely new crowd of people. Again, Kerbal Space Program is what taught me so much about spaceflight. I owe so much of what I do to this game, and I really can't even imagine how many people it's changed their lives because they found out that they love rocket science. And I think KSP2 is honestly even better set up for new people to fall in love with spaceflight. But don't worry, there's still plenty of things to look forward to, even if you're someone with thousands of hours like me. Thank you so much to the incredible team at Private Division for sending Flo and I out to Amsterdam to experience this game. What an absolute honor. I can't wait to play it more. And thanks to the folks at ESA for hosting us and showing us around. I'll drop a fun little video about some of the stuff that I saw while I was there for you, so stay tuned for that. And although it happened to not be the best timing for me personally due to Starship doing its biggest test to date, at least I was in fantastic company for the 33 engine static fire. And it was a pleasure meeting so many of the other creators and spending some good quality time together.
Yes! They gotta repaint it again.
I want to ride that thing.
Nice. That's crazy, man. You're right.
Well, that's gonna do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people.